Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of On Air. I'm joined today by Kristofer Bunker. Kris is the founder and CEO of Hapi Healthcare. And today we are going to be talking about the challenges that you face when you grow out a team, aligned with growing revenue, and how trust plays a really important role in that. We all know there are so many challenges that come around people when you're growing an organization, and as a founder or a senior leader, you've got to be ready for those challenges. And I'm hoping we can gain some learnings from Kris's experience in going through that right now and previously in his career today. And we're going to center a lot around that topic of trust, which plays such an important part in any topic around dealing with people. Kris, thank you for joining us. Before we get into the topic, can we have 2 minutes? Who's Kris and who's Hapi Healthcare?
Well, thank you very much. Who's Hapi Healthcare and who's Kris? Well, I am not a medical professional. I am somebody just who really enjoys business and trying to solve problems. I really want to try to it sounds a bit cheesy, but I really want to make a difference in the way that people live day to day. And that's really what Hapi Healthcare is all about. It's a digital platform, and we're trying to revolutionize the way that people interact and receive care through the social care settings. A lot of our work is through nursing homes, but the view and the hope is that we will do more than just that. We'll look after people in social care and their families, so in their own homes. But I firmly believe in that technology can bring down significantly the cost in care and increase the communication. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think right now, everybody would agree that health is on the tip of everybody's conversation and the tip of the tongue. And I think we can see that costs have spiraled out of control and people aren't getting the care that they need. And I think if that can have a change, technology can do that. And it's about really connecting people so they all know what's going on in the most effective way possible.
Yeah, fantastic. It's great to hear healthcare, which has traditionally been a reasonably old-fashioned sector, beginning to see the opportunity with technology and what it can do for it. So exciting times ahead. And what sort of stage are you at right now as an organization? How long have you been going, and where are you today?
We were born really in the pandemic. So that was the pivot moment that everybody talks about. I've been in healthcare for 10 years in different countries. And for the last couple of years, I've been doing it in the UK, but realised that, yes, that old school methodology just wasn't working. It wasn't fluid enough. And so I came up with a concept, and it was a working concept in 2019 to use technology to change it. And it's not rocket science, really. It's really just about good communication, good organisation, and getting that to the right people at the right time. And so we started to develop that idea and how we take what we're doing day to day in a very manual process. And in July of last year, we started putting that into action, and we started to develop that out. And I think we're knocking on the door of about 200 nursing homes are using this platform at the moment and growing. The technology is at its early stage, so it's working in the most basic format, but it is already having huge benefits to the way that we work and managing resources properly, and getting the care where it needs to be. And I think if it wasn't for the pandemic, you'd question whether you'd still be thinking about it rather than doing it.
Yeah, isn't it interesting the way that has forced people to accelerate their decision making, some of which has no doubt resulted in bad decisions, but I think a lot have resulted in good decisions. So fantastic to hear the success story. Now, there's something you said there that stood out, and I think we'll do a little bit of looking backwards at the last 12, 14, 15 months, and also looking forward at the challenges you're no doubt going to have as you grow the business. You've got 200 nursing homes on board already in the space of a year and a bit, over a time of a pandemic. There'd be people out there thinking, how on earth have you done that? How have you got from 0 to 200 in that sort of time frame with a new product? Most of the people we bring on this show are looking for ways to grow revenue and win more new logos, win more new clients, and are struggling with it or have opportunities to accelerate that. You've obviously done a very, very good job so far. What have been some of the key strategies for getting you from 0 to 200 homes in that sort of time?
Good question. I think that the pandemic has played to us in the early part.
Yeah.
It's negatively affecting in different ways later on, the tail of the pandemic, if you like, if you can believe that it's over or heading in the right direction at least. He's playing a little bit of havoc now. But in terms of the early stages, it was the opportunity that people had been in our lockdown for quite a long time. And so it's the old supply and demand. People needed a resource. People had gone without care for a long time. And so it was recognizing that we need to get out there and talk to as many people as we can, as quickly as we can. And I think anybody can, get on the telephone and do that. What's necessary, and probably the most important thing that you do, is that the person that's having the conversation selling your product, whether it's yourself or somebody else, they believe in it. They can't be selling something that they don't believe in, and through that gives credibility. If you're selling something you're not really sure on, or you don't really believe in, then I think you've got to be honest with yourself and say, why am I doing this? But ultimately that does come across. People sort of talk, recruited salespeople for years, as you have, and they'll say, I can sell ice to Eskimos, and the cliches there. But the reality is, yes, you can. But if you want it to be a long-lasting partnership that can build, you can build on. It's not an in and out situation. There's got to be credibility, and you've got to build on that trust. So I think probably the success has been, we really understand our product and our market very, very well. Anybody that's talking on the telephone has had a lot of conversation with us about that. We're in it for the right reasons. Yes, we don't hide the fact that we're a profit-making business, but at the same time, we're not greedy, because it's about long-term partnerships, and it's about understanding what their problem is and giving them a simple solution to it. And so our product has been well received because I think it suits the market well. That doesn't always work. There's lots of examples where great products haven't gone well in the marketplace, and that's timing. And I think we've been lucky enough to have timing and a good product.
Yeah. I'm a bit worried that some people in the audience might be thinking that starting a business is very easy based on what you're talking. So let's look at the challenges that you'd have to overcome, because I think it's important to acknowledge, founding a business takes bravery, and it takes guts, and it takes, like you say, timing and all sorts, and a good product in the first place, and a good idea, and then there's all that challenge that comes in the first 12 months that you like you say, your lucky timing and right product, right time, all those sorts of things are great, but you've probably been through blood, sweat and tears as well. And it'd be great to hear some of the challenges you've had to overcome on that journey so far.
I think bravery is probably the number one thing that stops anybody from having an idea and then turning it into reality, because it's a risk. No matter how you go about minimizing that risk, there is a risk there. So I think it does take a certain person to do that. But you also see a lot of these people that have overnight success. And we're sort of talking about, lots of nursing homes come on really quickly. We've grown our product base really, really fast. And we want to accelerate that. But it's not overnight success. That's come from me being in an industry for 10 years. But as a business owner, I've been in business for the best part of 20 years in one shape or another. And it's that knowledge that you build up and that confidence that you build up in your own ability. And I've made lots of mistakes, but I think they're important. Learning from your mistakes and having the framework or the comfort to be able to get things a bit wrong is how we learn and we progress and we go forward. So, failure is talked about a lot as a really negative thing. And I think within a certain reason, failure is actually really important. And if you can fail faster, you'll understand where you need to focus to do better. But failure takes an enormous amount of courage, and because sometimes failure can be catastrophic and it doesn't work, and that's where the bravery really comes in. When are you going to pull up out of that nosedive? When are you going to start to excel? And so that's, I think, where we're at, and that's why we've got a big difference. Is we've been in the market a long time, understood that, and we have been brave to take that opportunity and run with it. But yeah, blood, sweat and tears has and will continue to go into it. And it doesn't matter. People talk about 80% of businesses fail in the first 12 months, and that probably is a statistic that is true. But it doesn't mean that they're suddenly bulletproof in year 2 or 3. Businesses that fail and they're 100 years old, you've still got to have that commitment and that focus and that dedication, like you did in year 1, to keep pushing it through and make sure that things stay on the track. When you take your foot off the pedal, I think that's when it goes wrong. So yeah, if anybody thinks it's easy,
I'm glad we've
give it a
cleared that
go.
up. Brilliant. And look, I think you pulled out a really good potential quote there, which I think I might have heard something similar before around, it took me 10 or 20 years to become an overnight success. I think it's a valid point that it's very easy to look at somebody who's moving quickly, early stages of business, and think, oh, they've got lucky, or it's not taken them long, but it's the hard work and the graft and the knowledge that's been built over the years of going through the pain and working your way up your career to get to the point where you've got the confidence to do it that creates that. And I think it's a really valid point to remember. Something we've touched on in a conversation before we hit record today was around the challenges with actually fulfilling with sales. So quite often a tech business will have the challenge of the platform is there, it's got the capacity, we don't need to backfill it with people, we don't need to provide a resource, we've got to provide the platform and its licenses, and the challenge we have is scale. It's about getting enough people to say yes to buy this product, and then we can scale with it. You've kind of got a different challenge in there, that you've got the demand coming in of people wanting to use it, but then you've got to backfill it with resource, you've got to backfill it with what you refer to as partners. Perhaps a fairly unique challenge for a technology platform. Tell us a little bit about that, and what's caused that challenge, and what you've been trying to do to overcome it potentially.
So I guess working backwards, it's a little bit of what I just said. The pandemic gave us the opportunity and it allowed us to accelerate, but there's a tail on that pandemic that is causing us some problems now. So we're tech first, and we're supporting health. That's how we view ourselves. So it's tech enabled business, you would call it. And so I think everybody in business can relate to us in one way or another. But with us, it's the medical partners that are coming on board. So we've got the clients, we've got the growth. The platform can absorb far more than what we've got. But if you haven't got the partners, then you can't generate the revenue. And it's as simple as Uber. They've got their platform. They've got people downloading the app and they want to hail a cab. And in the early days, they didn't have any drivers. So our drivers are partners. They're medical professionals. We're working in social care, which is not the first thought of a career for a lot of people in healthcare. It's incredibly rewarding, and it gives you the opportunity to be a specialist in something that is really quite complicated when you get digging deep into these vulnerable people and the support that they need. But it's having those conversations. So I always work on the theory that if you're trying to sell something, well, who's your audience? And if you could speak to every single one of those, then statistically you're going to win, because you're able to have that conversation with enough people. But that's the challenge, getting in front of those people and having those conversations, where Air Marketing really come into their own, allowing those doors to be opened and have those conversations. And then you've got the opportunity to close the door or close the sale and move it forwards. And that's our challenge at the moment, is working out how that resource can be engaged and worked. In the pandemic, the tail part of it is causing a demand in other sectors, in private settings. People have not had certain types of healthcare, they've been putting it off, so therefore it's now got this pent up demand. So they're not wanting to move jobs. So our offering looks fantastic, but they're busy at the moment. That's one challenge. The other challenge is we're frontline, and therefore we have to have vaccinated staff. And there are, believe it or not, still medical professionals out there that don't want to get vaccinated. Legitimate reasons in some cases, but there's always an argument for why you should get it. My view is that it's the only way forwards at the moment, unfortunately. I don't fancy another lockdown myself. And staff out of the pool that we would normally talk to, we're unfortunately not able to engage some of them because our clients need vaccinated staff. So that's the tail that's affecting us. We'll be moving along thinking, okay, we're getting that resource, we can now go and get more clients on board. And then we find actually, we've got to stop and have a rethink, because the partner can't join us because of the lack of the vaccine. And so I think trust is, again, a big thing there. People want to trust the vaccine, but they don't know enough about it, so they're cautious of it. And I think that's our challenge with the partners, but that's also challenge generally in sales, that if somebody doesn't trust what you're offering them, you're not going to buy it.
On that note, and that feeds really nicely into the next question that I was thinking of asking you, which is around the brand. So obviously, if a founder, you're thinking about direct sales, you're thinking about, you've talked about it a couple of times, getting conversations with people on the phone, getting direct in there, and getting people onboarded, so that we've got scale of people interacting with the platform. Equally, though, at the same time, I'm guessing there's a focus on brand and building the brand and making it familiar and creating that trust in the market, so that whether it's your end users, clients, or your partners, there's a level of trust when they see that Hapi logo and they say, right, that is something that I trust to use, I want to engage with, and I know that the standards or the ethics and the way it works is reliable. What's happened on that journey for you so far? What have you been doing to create trust around the brand and not just you as a person or your team?
Yeah, good questions. I mean, social media is obviously a great platform to start getting your name recognised. It's funny, trust is something that is so different to so many people. So you might think of, well, I build trust in my friends because I know them over years and years and years, or I trust a brand because I've known it years and years and years. But quite often people trust a brand not because they've experienced it, but actually because they've just seen it. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And the two examples I've got is, I think the statistic that says the human mind needs to see something around about 7 times before it will start to acknowledge it, recognize it more, and start to ultimately trust it, even though they've actually had no experience of what that product can do for them or what that brand can do for them. But you know it, you trust it, and it's your first go-to because it's the one that's the most familiar to you. But you've also got the other example that when you've got your brand out there and you're providing a good service, it doesn't always spread. People don't always say about the good things. They're quite happy to talk about when it goes wrong. But they don't always say about that. So from my perspective, I think that getting your position right, social media and things like that is one thing, so that you can get the mind to have that view. But it's really having those conversations so that you're telling people about what it is, because if they're not going to go and say, oh yeah, I saw that brand, that looks really good, go and have a look at that, which does happen. Obviously, it's not something that isn't there, but it travels much slower than bad news, unfortunately. So you've got to be ahead of that wave. You've got to be out there having that conversation, talking to them as much as possible, and trying to bring them on. So we're doing social media, we're doing direct calls. It's in social care. It's why we've worked so much with the nursing homes, because it's B2B. If you're sticking an advert out and waiting for somebody to respond to that, you're in a crowded market. Sometimes you're not always understood, and so that's where you struggle. So my background has always generally worked on B2B, because you can get yourself in front of them, and you can have a conversation. And then that's, you start building up, and it goes back to what I said at the start about the credibility element. My businesses over the years have always been on my own life experiences and the opportunity. So therefore it makes it very relatable, makes it very honest, and it makes those conversations much easier. And so it doesn't matter whether you're selling to the nursing home or you're selling to a partner in that scenario. The trust part, I think, comes from that exposure and seeing it. But every opportunity is a branding exercise. So even if they don't want to join you right now, that in that immediate direct sort of call to action, as it were, having those conversations and getting that brand out there, every opportunity is a chance to brand. So the example is what we're doing today, an opportunity to brand, even though we're not actually directly selling, and even having a conversation with a private practice that doesn't see the value in what you could do for them right now, but 5 months down the road, their practice is not as busy. Actually, some of our staff could go and work on your platform. It would fill some of their time up, would give something back, and it'd be really good. And that's then, a bit of trust further down the road. So I think it's two sides, in that, and we're trying to work both. So social media and direct calls to build the brand and build the background, build what's behind it, because we can see a logo and we can have a fancy tagline. But what does that actually mean, and how does that relate to people? What do they understand you to be?
Yeah. Really interesting points. I love the point you made about, the fact that negative press can spread like wildfire, but positive tends to move. You have to work a lot harder, don't you? And I think it's a really valid point.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, I think in business, you won't always get it right. I talked about failures earlier, some worse than others, but we will always make mistakes as humans and as in business. And so it's how you address those. You know, if somebody has a problem, how do we deal with it? Do we
Yeah.
ignore it? Do we say they're wrong? You know, there's the customer's always right, which I think is not necessarily always true. Yours are to help the customer, but some people are just incredibly difficult. So you've got to draw the line somewhere. But it's how you deal with that response. How do you deal with that problem? And make sure that you are putting out more conversation that is positive and be open. You know, I always talk about leaning into the wind.
Yeah.
If there's a problem, talk about it. Talk to your clients about it. Well, I had a problem like this. This happened, and they didn't like us very much. Well, what did you do about it? Because it's not about the problem so much. It's about what you do about it. And so they're really good things to overcome an objection or a potential objection. And also, again, it's the transparency, which helps build the trust. You haven't hidden away from it. You've lent into it and actually used it to your advantage.
Yeah. And do you know what? We've talked about trust, and we lent naturally towards external trust, people you're trying to work with, your partners, your clients, those sorts of things. Trust is something that works inwardly within the business and can really fuel the fire for growth as well when you look at the people you're working with in the team. So, you know, whether that's employees or even to some degree suppliers, you know, people that you work with that play a role and whose level of trust for the brand. And you talked about it right at the beginning about believing in what you're selling. You know, that's something that's a challenge with a new company, isn't it? Because you're bringing people into the business and on the journey with you, whether it's partially or completely, and they're immersed working with you full time, and all of a sudden they play a key role in the success or otherwise. Trust must play a really big part in getting that right too.
100%. So you can have the opportunity, you can have the right product, but it means nothing without the right people. So if you're baking a happy healthcare cake, they're your ingredients for success. And people who will always turn up, all the people you just mentioned, the suppliers, the contractors, the employees, all of those guys will turn up for a job.
Yeah.
You know, you've sold them the job and they'll get a salary. So, well, they're going to turn up. The question is, one, will they stay in that job? And two, will they come to work because they're being paid, or will they come to work because they want to? And I think there's examples where people go to work because they're paid money and they get paid more money, and that's the incentive. But at the end of the day, you want people to follow you anywhere, and you are leading them, and they'll only do that if they trust you. Got to be that huge element of trust there. So I think that if you've got the people internally, you've got to do two things. You've got to be as honest and transparent with them as you can. Obviously, you can't be telling all the secrets of the business. Some people need protecting from that. It's confidential, it's high level, and but you're clear about that. You're open about that. And I think as a leader, you've got to be prepared to work and do what you're expecting other people to do. So lead by example. And you've got to be clear with them and open with them. And I think if you can do that, and that's what I always try to do with everybody, if there's a problem, again, you talk about it. You're not afraid to have that conversation and find out what you can do for them. There's sometimes more you can do and sometimes there's not, but talk about that and cultivate those good relationships. At Hapi, we don't do the quarterly reviews and end of year chats. I don't believe that you should wait 3 months or 12 months to sit down and have a chat. My view is that you do these little and often conversations. So don't want big, long, drawn out meetings where you're trying to work out. You're constantly in those conversations when you're having a meeting. You're thinking about what's making these guys tick. What do they want from it? How do we want to go? Do they want to be here a long time? Do they want to be here a short time? Have those conversations. In my experience, a lot of people are thinking about jobs elsewhere and opportunities, but they don't want to talk to their company or their manager about it. Fear of retribution, fear of being binned off earlier, or if there's a problem or whatever, just this fear of something going on. So try to remove the fear, have those open conversations, and trust will flourish, particularly if it's natural. You know, I don't get on with everybody that I've ever worked with, and I haven't got something in common with everybody other than maybe the job that we're doing. But I think if everybody sort of talks on a regular basis, that trust will come. And if you add that into the ingredients, you've got people that trust you and they'll follow you to work. The pay is almost like a byproduct. Then it's necessary, but it's a byproduct of where they're there, because they can get paid anywhere. Then they've got a product that they believe in and the market opportunity is right. Then you've got real chance of success.
Yeah, absolutely love. Do you know what? Fantastic. I'm loving the way you talk around that, and the mentality of little and often as well. I love that. I think it's brilliant. And you're leaning to the wind analogy around, that people are going to be looking at other jobs. Of course they are. If you've got a workforce, then be honest about it, be upfront about it, and give people an environment where they can be comfortable talking about their reasons, because what a great opportunity that is for you to learn as a leader. What do I need to change? What are people saying about the role or about the company? And can I address those so that they don't leave, or so that if they are going to leave, the next batch of people don't go for the same reasons?
Exactly. I've started saying to a lot of people at the moment, and it's a new thing that I say, and it's everything's got a start, a middle, and an end. Everything is a story. So what's your story? What's the journey you're going on that story? But your staff are no different. They'll start with you, they'll have a middle, and there'll be an end. Businesses generally have that, whether at the end it's traded to another company, or whether it's floated on a stock market, or sadly it has to stop. They've all got that. It just depends on how long it is and what chapters they've got in the middle. And you can apply that to every setting, I think. And I think that's the important part, because you're acknowledging, well, at some point in time, you'll want to go off and do that, because it's only natural that people want to grow, they want to learn, they want to develop. People need to be challenged, and people need to be able to earn a living and grow with what they're doing. So their story is something that's exciting to tell others, and for them to be proud of. And so, those conversations of the start and middle and end, I think, are really important.
Yeah, very, really valid point. And then, look, final question: what's coming in the future? What's going to what are going to be maybe the bigger challenges for you over the next 12 months? What do you foresee happening for Hapi Healthcare?
So for Hapi Healthcare, I think we've got probably the internal challenges, which they're exciting challenges. It's apart from the obvious we've talked about today, where we're trying to get the partners on board. I think that's more a case of we're trialing and erroring different ways of working, and we'll find that perfect fit that will allow us to expand and grow and support that. But it's the technology itself that's the bit that's most exciting, because as we build the data, we'll be able to then start doing more with that. And so your algorithms come in your system. And so at the moment, we're very much focused on taking the technology to make sure people are in the right place. The future for us is that the technology will start to look at that data that is being, relevant information being put into the system through the individual themselves, or maybe the medical professional. But those data sets will then start to allow us to look at that and start to say, well, hold on, we can see here that you're a possibility for pre-diabetic. So what can we do around informing you that that's the case, educating you as the family member or the patient themselves, and then using our platform to do something about it. So inform, educate, and action. That's what's the next step for us. Once we've got the baseline of you need to be here, you need to be there, and accessing that care, is actually becoming preventative, because that's really where we're going to drive down the cost of social care. Because the external challenge really for us is what's happening out in social care. It's underfunded. It doesn't function the way that it needs to. Governments have talked in decades of what they're going to do about it and how they're going to challenge it, and they're talking about that at the moment. It's exciting that there is talk about that, but the question is, how's that going to change? What's going to happen? Are we going to talk about a solution that is really like boiling the ocean and it's never going to come to fruition, or are we going to find these little changes, these little bits that need, which that's the best way for change management. Big changes do have problems. I think if we can find and work with externals, that will be small changes between the governments and the sort of smaller groups, the GPs and the community settings, I think that's really exciting. And we want to make sure that our product is right in the middle of that, bringing those things together, because ultimately, as much as we're running a business and we want to grow it, it's about making people's lives happier and healthier. And to do that, we've got to be part of the solution, part of that change, little by little, to make things a little bit better for the way that we all want to live day to day.
Kris, exciting times for you guys ahead, and what an honourable thing to be making a difference with as well. I think it's a business with a mission that you can be very proud of, and it sounds fantastic. So good on you for doing that. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your experience with us today. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, share some war stories around founding a business and getting things off the ground, or just maybe pick your brain on some of the things you've shared today, what's the best way for them to do that? And second question, who should be getting in touch with Hapi Healthcare?
Good question. I think anybody that is interested in our story and our journey, anybody that thinks they can contribute. So you could be a medical professional that wants to get involved and see where they can add. You could be in finance, build. So anybody that thinks they might be able to add value, get in touch, give us a call. You can go to the website. All of the contact details are on there. So that's Hapi with an I, Hapi, hapihealthcare.com.
Yeah.
Go to the website and do that. Or kb@hapihealthcare.com is my email address. I am happy to get emails from anybody. Facebook, Instagram is also available, but they're the quickest ways to get to me directly. And I just love talking to people who've got enthusiasm and ideas for our product and social care as a whole. You know, we're here to make a difference, and as I said, it's the people that will do that. So get in touch and come and talk to us.
Lovely stuff. Kris, thank you ever so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it, and we'll speak to you again soon. And good luck over the next 12 months with your growth.
Thank you very much, Owen. Good to meet you. Take care.
Thanks.